Welcome to our June the 25th meeting for 2025. Amy, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Eddie, what you got this morning?
These are more than normal. These are problems. Most of these are problems that we found. 25. A lot of it's the computer.
I move that,
Those fixed before.
I move that we approve the exonerations.
That's a refund generated by last one.
Second. Second the motion.
We have a motion to second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You need to
Aye.
do these, Dominic.
Oh.
You need to do those too.
Motion.
I make a motion that we approve the refund.
Second.
Have a motion and second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What's the property invoices for some?
Yes.
So I move that we approve payroll for 6/27.
Second.
Have a motion and second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Eddie.
And I move that we approve the prior meeting minutes, and that was for the regular meeting on the 14th and the regular meeting on the 11th. 6/11. Yeah, June 11th.
Okay, I'll second. Have a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye. And I move that we approve the estate settlements.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ruth? Um. Anything. Okay, you have library board appointment member. Library board member appointment. Okay, so the first one is Roberta Cyphers as a reappointment. And the second one is Canberra Chris, and she is replacing Stephanie Kyrie that. These are based on the recommendations of the chair of the library board. Yes. I move that we approve both appointments with library board.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Not yet. Let's skip that for a minute anyway. I need to skip that one too. And his other thing. Yeah. Both of those. The next is just a standard letter you're required to send. It is a listing of the public service district members. And then, so Secretary of State. Is that something we have to approve? Yeah. Okay, well, I move we approve. Yeah, it's on the letter. I move we approved it.
Second.
We have a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then the Oakley Festival. Oh, yeah, I had a call from one of the Oakley Festival board members. The festival is gonna occur before our next funding session, and we did give money to Anstead Heritage, so I wanted to move that we approve $1,000 for the Oakley Festival this year.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, the next are the required transfer orders. So worthless check to general fund, 8.44. Managed report fund,
the general fund, 18,875, and the general school fund, which is not for the school, $84,502.99. And it was the undistributed voting of funds.
Well, I move that we approve the transfer orders.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Next is your budget statement. You're required to file in the county clerk's office for the end of the year. Yeah, I haven't gotten any of those except for some shares.
Okay, I move that we approve the budget statement.
Yeah.
What was your, what's the comment, Michelle?
Anthony went, oh, because he forgot to do it. And I said, I've only gotten a share so far.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Have a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can't pay the employees until I get that statement.
Let's not go to the rest of those yet.
Well, like, okay.
Um,
I've done mine either. Anthony won't get done.
no.
Maybe one might.
We're gonna need executive session for 9:15. You know, since he's not here, we could actually go in, I could ask questions
Okay.
now.
Oh, Michael didn't want
Because it's listed on there twice.
Yeah.
He called and checked yesterday and we told him 9:15.
Hey, Shannon?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, the reason it is because we plugged a hole with it and forgot to remove it at the end.
yeah,
Exactly.
this, the holiday nest job. 2 days early.
Yeah, it messed them up worse than it did me, but it wasn't good. Okay. So do you wanna?
A lot of these are only that require them, okay?
Well, this one is. This one is, just trying to figure out how we can be efficient. Is Philip on? Wonder if we could get him to talk about the radio call.
He's on Zoom, yeah, he said he'd be available.
I was just hoping we could get him early and then we can.
Well, he should be, he said he was zooming in. We also have we have a representative of Meadowbridge Tower.
Meadowbridge.
You still talking about the tower, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got representatives here that we'll explain a little bit.
Let me see if we can get that on like that. So we have executive session on a couple of these up here.
Okay. Yeah, we've already rolled through what we can on this and yours. All right, Meadowbridge Fire Department, you want to come on up? We're gonna jump ahead a little bit on the agenda. So we have some major things we need to tackle here.
While he's here, I'd like to ask about the garage door too.
Yeah, go ahead and give us your name and
Charles Wade, I'm chief of the Meadowbridge Fire Department.
okay, and what brings you today?
Well, the tire down, the insurance company not giving it up. They're trying to take off stuff that I think they shouldn't be, but they're not giving up the fully put it back.
Okay, I have a few questions on the tower. On the information that Commissioner Fayette sent us, it's stated that the tower wasn't designed to hold more than one antenna. Is that correct?
Yeah, where to say that?
That was the word I got, that it was designed with one antenna, but now there's four on. Now, it's not saying the weight or called, oh, we're not saying that. We're just saying that it was put up with one. And now there's four antennas. Is that right?
Yeah. I've never heard that. No, where it come from.
I mean, but there's four antennas on it. What do the antennas represent? You've got antennas that represent different entities. Who do they represent?
Fire and all, EMS and the bus.
Board of Education, Fire Department, EMS, which would be Jan Care,
Anything you can.
county, and then, who was the other one?
Well,
Law enforcement. So they can talk to the deputies down there. Have y'all got estimates on what it costs to?
Is that?
Yeah, they-
in here?
Yeah, they were in here.
Okay, so we're looking at $192,778.15.
I
And
don't
it's-
like I want the more structured, more permanent solution, because I agree, the difference in the cost.
that is a fixed tire without kind versus
It was 192 minus their insurance, so their insurance deductible came off of it already, and
It'd be about $75,000.
okay, so it's gonna be less because the insurance is gonna pay so much.
108 something.
Okay, has anyone contacted the Board of Education, EMS, law to have them split the cost?
I think maybe we could.
Yeah.
I was gonna suggest that we just send a letter and say that we're gonna do this and ask for contributions from those. Those organizations, because we need the tower. If they wanna benefit from it, they can contribute to it.
Yeah, because it's an
Law enforcement
important,
versus us, so.
it's an important part of the county communication system, having that antenna there. Or the tower and the antennas. Let me clarify. So it's important. I feel that we need to draft a letter, get it out to the board and the other entities and let them know that, we are going to be replacing the antenna or the tower and the antennas. And their assistance would be greatly.
One other thing, who owns the tower?
We did, memory fire.
You own it, not the town of Meadow Bridge? You own it. Sorry, good deal.
Yeah, I don't think that you guys in the town don't have that much.
No.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and then you had some other questions, Commissioner?
Yeah, I didn't really understand the garage door question answer. But that is the sort of purchase that we've asked that be come through here because of the amount of money involved. If you want it to come out of the general fire levy budget, that is. Now, if it's coming out of your own fire department budget, none of our business.
It's just opener for garage door because two of them are 12 by 12.
Uh-huh,
I mean, the commercial garage door is insulated heavy. And they're just hard to get up. And we're more afraid that they're not either gonna go up all the way and somebody will bring a truck out and tear the door around the truck up. Or something like that. And then there's one for $400 some dollars. One
for
of these
remote.
remotes. Programming went out of it, so I had to get him reprogrammed. When I did that, I only 4 extra remote.
okay, so, but you get my point, right? When you're gonna do an expensive, several
Yeah.
$1,000s. So did you intend that to come out of your fire department's budget, or did you intend that to come out of the general fire levy?
Out of our budget for the levy.
Oh.
I mean,
So out of the budget that you made for the levy?
yeah,
Okay, well, that's fine then. That's not the kind of thing, unless you want it to come out of it's an extraordinary expense that would come out of the general fund.
it's nothing on top of what we were already allocated. Through that. You see, like for next year, y'all give us $58,000. Like, if I spend that on that, it would come out.
Okay,
That's right.
okay.
Now, and you talk about the garage door openers is what you got, right? What are you keeping behind, behind those garage doors? What do you keep?
Brush trucks in there, pickup trucks in there. Or side by side, and stuff like that, too.
And you currently don't have an automatic opener?
No, I don't know.
And we got some firemen in here. That saves time, right? When you can hit that button and that garage is going up as you're moving and, cause you're not moving just to
Somebody has to sign on.
go to Kroger, you're going to a hall. And that door is opening as you're putting boots on or whatever, where you're grabbing gear, right? I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah.
All right.
Just not a luxury item.
Huh.
Cause you don't wanna reach down and pull up a garage door.
Heavy and hard to get up.
No, I understand the need. I'm not questioning the need. I was trying to figure it, just the process of an expense like that.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Um,
Come here. Mr. Bless. This thing, we don't have the information. We need. We need to get here again, and we just put it on, and we'll talk about it. Does it?
yeah, I think it was a deadline. We probably have one speak. And we need to do is for you all, because hopefully they come back with the final title. I need to talk to Michael about it. That we go into executive session, we need to discuss the 9:15 item with legal counsel. It's a MOU. Also, we need to discuss 10 o'clock item, the PSD public hearings. And there may be one other thing. Let me look here. We also need to discuss items 8 through 11 on exhibit A.
Okay, welcome back. We are back from executive session and no decisions were made. See Les here. We'll go ahead with the REAP opening for phases 4 and 5.
So Shane, when you ask, so you want to do that, or you want to let them go ahead and go? Why don't you tell them we're going to postpone it because we need some more information. Okay. So I'm going to move that we postpone the 9:15 to our next meeting in July.
I second it.
Have a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, we don't all need the bid sheet, remember, we fill out one.
Yeah.
I just give you extras.
Yeah, and he just made it, y'all.
Well, I'll keep them here in case I'm.
Okay.
If you're doing that, you want to open one of these?
Open one, depending on how many there are.
There's 5.
5, I'll open one, you guys open 2 each. Please.
We'll give you.
Okay, so the bidders are Tom's Tear Down and Takeaway out of Charleston, Empire Salvage, Reclaim, what was saying on it? You guys have that?
They have five?
Yeah.
No. They.
Oh, they have full pay.
When you guys do the tabulation sheet next time, if you could put where they're out of too.
Okay,
Reclaim's out of there.
Okay, Rock Solid, do we know where it's out of?
Fayetteville.
And Joe,
I don't know.
they're from like up north or something, aren't they?
Yeah.
They don't always put their information on the outside.
Yeah. So we'll know
that
it.
is fine.
Okay, I have Empire Salvage. And it's $55,500.
Okay. I have Tom's Tear Down and Takeaway, and it's $65,980.
I have Reclaim, and it's $103,100.
I've got Rock Solid Excavating. It is $167,960. Who is this, Amy? Let me look at the back.
That's it.
Smoky Joe.
Smoky Joe. I have,
Smoky Joe out of.
They didn't even put anything. I think Ruth just had to write his name on there.
yeah, it's Smoky Joe.
Well,
Look on his license.
Contract.
Yeah, if you look at his license.
Beverly.
Beverly.
Smoky Joe's is $134,105.
All right, so package these back up and.
So Ruth's not here, but she was gonna ask you guys if you would go ahead and to kind of speed up the bidding to vote to approve the low bidder pending approval of documents.
Okay,
I thought she spoke to you about that.
well, I agree with that idea. That way we don't have to come back. So, I move that we award the bid to the lowest bidder pending, or the lowest bidder whose bid passes muster with our review.
Second.
You have a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
And with that, I gave you guys the point sheets. So everyone on the sheet does for a 6, 7, or 8. So I'd like to request that we approve those so that Anthony can get my voluntary forms. That's what I asked them about and approving.
I'll make a motion to approve the 6, 7s, and 8s.
A second.
Have a motion and second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, got another set. Who's it?
Okay, and these are for phase 5, or those last ones phase 4,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get going on there.
for the record. We have Tom's Tear Down, Empire Salvage, Reclaim, Rock Solid, and Smoky Joe again. All bidding. Tom's is $75,500.
Rock Solid Excavating is $250,600. Empire Salvage and Recycling is $124,835.
Okay, Smoky Joe's is 129,735. And Reclaim is 203,830.
Similarly, I move that we go ahead and approve the lowest, award the bid to the lowest bidder who passes our review process.
Second.
Motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And with that, the people in favor 5 also scored 6, 7, 8, so. And they're at the bottom.
Oh, okay, they're all on the same sheet.
Yeah, I just,
Oh, they were on the same sheet.
they were.
Oh.
She back.
Same sheet, we just.
Yeah, thank you.
You know,
Oh, yeah, okay. I
We've
got it.
already moved to and we've already approved them, haven't we?
We approved them for round 4.
5 is the last.
I see, I got round 5.
So you should just.
Okay, well, I move that we approve these applicants as presented.
I'll second. We have motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
One more thing, real quick. So after these bids, as long as everybody officially owns the property, we still have over 220-some thousand to spend in less than 5 months. So I'm gonna reach back out to the cities that we have agreements with, and then I'm gonna see if Amy will do another press release to try to get some more houses. So I only have about 15 more houses of voluntary. So if that's okay with you, I'd like to do a press release.
Well, and keep in mind that there are buildings like the one in Montgomery and others that we could,
And I will reach out, Montgomery and Smithers did have their own, so I'm gonna reach out. The only other one I did not reach out to is Oak Hill. And so if you guys would like me. Okay, I just wanna make sure because we do have agreements with Instead and we've done a lot for them. So I will reach out to Oak Hill, see if they can have any houses they can give me so you can get that, because we do have to have it all spent by December 1st.
right, so if we don't, then we need to look at a bigger project like what they have in Montgomery
If,
or something.
but if REIT will allow it, because they're not allowing a lot of big projects. this
Yeah,
time.
one of the ones on here is a school, even though you guys approved it, we have to go through REIT. They have to approve any commercial projects.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's-
Okay, still don't see Les Thomas here.
You on Zoom? No, he's not on Zoom.
Okay. So let's hop on into the 10 o'clock.
Okay, so. With regard to the Kanawha Falls Armstrong and Page Kincaid PSD public hearing. We are still awaiting a lot of information, with regard to debt, grants. Paperwork that, is critical for us to understand before we take any further steps. So I'm going to move that we indefinitely postpone this agenda item pending, receipt of that information.
Second.
Motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Plus, if you guys have been watching grants and programs which the PSDs rely on, there's been some major cuts to all of the grants. Some of them have even been cut 93% on funding. So it's going to be a very tough situation getting funding for whatever's out there. And what criteria they're going to use in order to get the funding or let the funding be available to the different entities.
Okay.
right.
So. Do we want, still on there still? He was on and then he signed off after we talked about it. He had some information with regard to that radio tower.
Okay.
I'll try to get it back on there.
Yeah, the PSDs, if you guys would like to leave, you can. If you'd like to stay, you can. We're sorry, we're just waiting on information.
Good question. The last comment you made about the PSD, what was the purpose of that?
What comment was
About
that?
grants.
Oh,
I mean, I was just wondering.
Because we're just noticing that a lot of these grants that used to be funded, that the federal government has pulled the funding from it.
Right, I mean, I get that, but what's that have to do with what's going on now?
it doesn't. I was just making a statement. Like hello, or top of the morning, or anything like that.
Can we take a break?
Yeah, we can take a break. Take a break now for 10 minutes. Okay, we're back from a break and we are going to the Fayette County Health Department Resiliency Initiative funding request. When you come up to the microphone, please state your name and
Sure, I'm Terry Harlan. I'm the executive director for the Fayette County Health Department. Thank you for having us. I'm going to immediately turn it over to Sarah Hambrick so she can describe the project, the initiative.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hambrick. I am a consultant with SVP, which is a disaster consulting firm. I have been working as a disaster recovery and resilience fellow in that capacity between Eastern Kentucky and West Virginia for about 3 years. Before that, I worked in recovery in West Virginia and worked in different FEMA and HUD programs. So from Fayette County, I was born here, went to school here, until about 5 years ago, I moved to Beckley. So I have some information for you all to take a look at while I'm talking.
Thank you.
So Carrie and I have known each other for a long time, but this is really a dream project for me. And last night I was watching the evening news and saw this really great piece about Welch, West Virginia, and all of the difficulties in recovery there. There are a lot of reasons that happens, but one of the main reasons is there is no local capacity that is well versed and can deal with what recovery looks like. We're typically really good at response, right? We know how to deploy, we know how to save lives, we know how to knock out, we know how to do those things. But since COVID, we've seen a huge decline in volunteer groups or anyone really coming out to volunteer in person. So it really takes some leadership locally to be able to determine how you're going to move forward. Also, there is such a heavy workload in most places and limited capacity that it's hard to collaborate and kind of reach out across organizations. So sometimes we learn a little too late or later than we want to that there are projects going on that can benefit everyone knowing. So we started to think about how do we help things move faster if there was a disaster in Fayette County. So I wanted to be able to give you some data today to talk about April 2024 and what the estimated property loss was versus what the amount received was. But the only people that have that information are in Wheeling responding to flooding there, and there's not enough capacity to even be able to give that type of information. So I wanted to be able to tell you some numbers and show you in number, but hopefully you can see the lack of capacity there. After 2016, we had a long-term recovery group stand up. I was involved in that as a volunteer case manager, and we didn't know anything then. We were really learning while we were trying to help people recover. So we were making mistakes, people were making mistakes. It was very difficult to manage and try to push through, but we did. And we were able to help pass out some donated dollars through organizations like Catholic Charities. Those organizations require some type of case management on the ground to be able to expend their funds. They won't just hand out funds if you're a survivor. So for instance, from the April storm, Catholic Charities does have a portion of money estimated around $100,000 for all of the counties that were involved. But there's zero disaster case management on the ground to help her expend that fund. So The guidance changed a little bit. It was a little bit cloudy, so I started thinking and pitched this dream idea really, that we start to really train and engage local leaders and help them learn what to do after response, after people are safe. Because people still aren't safe if they're living in a house that's full of mud because it wasn't mucked out. Or they're living in a house where the floor joists are so weak that they can't walk in one room. And that happens after a storm. Doesn't happen immediately after a storm, but it happens. So what we thought as part of this project was really identifying shelters, non-congregate shelters. We don't have a super great list or a way to activate them and collect information from them in a uniform way. So the emergency manager, Jack, would reach out to them and say, how many volunteer hours, what did you need? All of that kind of goes into our in-kind, right, whenever we're paying our portion for disaster response. So really making sure that we have leadership trained to operate shelters in the same manner across the county. Who's going to stand up? How do we do that? How do we take stock of supply? How do we know who came in, who left, who volunteered, all of those things? There's much more that goes into that. And we also want to help update the basic operations plan for emergency management. So that's one of our goals as well. Also, we would like to create a resiliency working group that is collaborative among many organizations and stakeholders in the community, so we can start to prioritize projects that we might want to look for funding for. Currently, EDA has a very large disaster supplemental that Fayette County will be eligible for. And you can do construction projects and non-construction projects with that, but just like this EDA grant that we're talking to you about today, they are very hard to write and they take a lot of time. So I think our grant right now is 35 pages. So, and that's without the additions and all of those things. So it takes a while to do that. We've already met with the EDA rep who will be pitching our project to the region. And I feel like we have a pretty solidified scope. Our budget feels good. We feel really good about the project. And so that's why we wanted to talk about it today, because we feel like we're in a good spot. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the project or.
I have a couple of questions or comments. One is, in the materials we had, I saw references to Region 3. What was that about?
It's EDA Region 3.
So federal EDA Region
Yes.
3? Okay. That threw me off a little bit. And have you guys discussed this within our GRDA?
No. No, I did try to reach out. I haven't gotten any response. So.
Well, I know Jenna is aware of it because she told me that she and John Tuggle had discussed it, I guess. Somewhat, but that's something that we definitely like them to be involved in.
Yeah, they're actually listed in the application as a stakeholder that we would want to engage and collaborate with for sure.
And the comments, having had more time to look at it, I do think the scope is kind of broad as with regard to specifically the assisting in projects that extend sewer infrastructure in underserved areas, because we have these private partner PSDs that do that, like in New Haven, for example. And I think we've even been discussing trying to create them in other places in the county. And the small district revitalization, that's obviously more of a NRGRDA function.
Yeah, so whenever we talk about things like that, even when we're talking about assisting with projects that maybe extend sewer or whatever, that's really like if we can find funding that seems to work. And they're not utilizing it, maybe we share it, maybe we pitch in and say, let us help you do some stakeholder engagement, let us help you do some part of it or support your application. That's not saying we're taking that and doing that. It's really a supportive measure. It's not kind of leading that charge as much as supporting that charge.
But something that we felt made the application strong.
It does make the application stronger, and that really is important, right? Like, we want to make sure that the efforts that we're doing should solidify so many things that we can start to focus on economic development as well, and any support that we can play to those types of issues as well. So one of the things that they wanted to do was move us from the disaster supplemental, which we could go back into that pot of funding, but currently they want to pitch our project as the assistance to coal impacted communities. There is still, I don't know the total, but there is still quite a bit in the fund for that. And we definitely qualify. We collected warrant notices and those types of things so that we can justify the decline in that industry.
I would just. One thing that I don't like to see in government is any duplication of effort, because we have such a small. Core group doing everything, so I just, would caution that you wouldn't allow your scope to get so broad, or, I wouldn't want you competing with infrastructure funds with PSDs.
Yeah, we don't want to do that as much as support them.
And at least New Haven, it does a good job. I mean, it knows what it's doing. And the same thing with NRGRDA, like I wouldn't want to see anything happening that it wasn't aware of. As far as the economic development piece of things and involved in.
Yeah.
I'm on that board too, so.
I agree. No, I think that our bigger effort really is to try to foster some collaboration and communication on those projects. So that there is some situational awareness across the board, and then if we can support, then we want to support, but I didn't want to not put it in there and then we can't do it as part
Well,
of.
no, I mean, if it helps your application, I get it. I just, as you, kind of see what this looks like in execution, I recommend that you. Maybe offer that support to those entities, but those entities are established specifically to do those things, so.
Mhm.
I wouldn't. Compete with them or duplicate or, anything like that. I mean, I really like the idea of. And I think I told this to you guys before, but the disaster recovery and some of the floods, we've talked on the commission before. If we have these areas, and especially in the valley, where we think the coal mine, if there was some mitigation on top of the mountain, that they might not flood so badly.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that I really wanted somebody to focus on, and there may even be legal remedies we have for some of the property owners in those areas to try to mitigate that, keep that from happening.
One of the projects that I've worked on with Region 1, who has an MOU with Region 4, is we work to create a brownfields inventory that should be done at the end of the month. That identifies potential brownfield sites so that it allows additional properties. If a homeowner is in the floodplain or the floodway and they want to buy out, oftentimes that's very hard to do because they don't know where to go and their home values are low, so they can't buy outside.
Right.
So we thought, let's identify these potential brownfield sites. We can show those on a map, right? If you're wanting to stay in a particular area, then we can go to that site, say, okay, let's look at these. If these are, maybe we can get some grant funding to help remediate it. Maybe this property would be more affordable as part of a bigger push into a hazard mitigation type grant.
Well, keep
we
in
did
mind
too.
too, we have a land reuse agency that has been buying property and homes and things like that. So part of it is to redevelop land for commerce, but part of it is to rehabilitate homes for housing. Too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that would fit with this, I think.
I've got a couple, you're a consultant, right?
Well, I'm considered a fellow, but I do consult on many things, so yes.
And you're working with the Fayette County Health Department in this manner. And you said this is a dream of yours or a thought of yours. Are you doing it anywhere else?
She's also been working with Jack Kincaid on our
Yeah.
staff.
Yeah.
For your all's information.
Yeah.
And you're wanting to hire 2 full-time disaster resilience coordinators, RC?
Yes, so the grants are 18 months, so they would be full-time for that 18 months. With the hope that there would be such proven outcome that we could either reapply or utilize a different source of funding.
And it's a matching grant, right?
It is.
Okay, and we've got the amount down here. And it says in-kind match. What is the in-kind that we match?
So the in-kind match reflects some salary from Terry, from her preparedness director, and from Jack on projects that we'll be collaborating with, like, for instance, Jack. I meet with him frequently. We are updating, hit the basic operations plan. There's no charge to anybody, but he spends some time with me, right? Looking at that and looking at anything that I suggest or whatever. Same for Terry, because we want to make sure that they're within scope of what she wants to do, right? While I pitch a project, they have the say, or if I'm like, hey, we should have this, like, it's still their stuff. I'm just kind of like feeling my way around it, so to speak. So the in-kind refers to the salary that they're paid through a different source besides the grant.
Are you familiar with that? Because I didn't learn it until a long time, but it can be contributing building space or anything like that.
Mhm.
That's what you're telling the federal government or anybody you're asking for money. We're gonna give space, we're gonna give manpower, things that
Mhm.
we already have, but it's basically a way to try to do a grant match without putting all cash toward it.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just wondering what the in-kind donation was,
Yeah.
what we were offering.
Yeah.
In that category.
Yeah, it's mostly just, across the board, for most of them, it's 20% of time, because that seems to make sense if we're, especially in the beginning, taking on a bigger project, like identifying all the shelters and doing MOUs and setting up a communication standard, then those things make sense that it might take a little bit more of their time.
I like the idea of the follow-up role. I mean, sometimes we don't follow up. We don't understand that people are going through, we understand it at first. It kind of loses its luster. We walk away, then the people are standing there going, what do we do now?
Yeah.
I understand that. I have, that's a legitimate concern.
Yeah, and right now, unfortunately, there are no agencies providing disaster case management. So, most survivors really are feeling their way through it, which I don't know if any of you have been impacted by a storm, but it is quite difficult to know how to appeal, what to appeal, those types of things. So really just providing some support on how to navigate that at a local level, which we've done before here. We just didn't keep it engaged, which is the difference of what we're talking about, just quarterly engagement, making sure everybody's fresh, ready to go. That happens in places like North and South Carolina, where they kind of have these on reserve case managers, and annually they talk to them just in case they need to ramp up quick. They've got people already kind of in the know about what's happening.
I want to go back to the infrastructure, give you an idea.
Okay.
There's some percentages out there. How many people in Fayette County don't have running water? What percentage? 38% now, because we're getting water to a few other people. It used to be 39%. How many people don't have sewer system? It's debatable, 49% to 52% still don't have sewer system. So we have people working on that, and I want to go with Commissioner Taylor on that. And let the others take care of that part. Maybe your follow-up would be like a Camden Hollow thing, where they don't have sewer.
Mhm.
Maybe that would be something that you could follow up on if you ever run into that issue again. Okay.
So if you could explain just in
Can I
practical.
finish up,
Oh,
please?
yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you were
Okay.
finished.
Now, other than that, I think it's a good program. I think it's something that we definitely need in the county. Thank you for bringing it to us. With you and Terry there, I think that we'll be okay. Go ahead.
How do you envision working with the county, with Jack and, moving forward with this?
So really, this will be really relationship building between the health department and emergency management, and some support between both offices, and making sure that, especially for the preparedness department, we're looking at how are people prepared? Because that's the other part of this that we haven't really touched, is talking with community about how to be more prepared. What steps can you take right now? How can we kind of avoid some of these things that we see very often, not only in Fayette County, not only in West Virginia, but really throughout Appalachia, like unclear ownership, things like that, that make it really hard to recover.
So for you, it's making sure, so for us, our emergency preparedness is government preparedness, and yours is gonna help the community.
Yeah,
be
we're
prepared.
gonna focus on, and do you know where to go, right? if there's a storm coming and we need you to leave, do you know where to go? Do you know where the most local shelter is? Do you know what types of insurance you need? Do you know that your homeowners doesn't cover water damage? But it will cover damage from a tornado maybe, right? Like starting to really think about, do you have a probate issue that needs cleaned up? Do you have an airship property that we can take care of right now? Like proactively thinking about how do we get people ready to be able to respond.
Get their HVAC units off the ground.
Yes.
Get your documents, get your medications,
Yes.
what do you take? You know, you have to leave your home. That's what I wanted to mention, that was the most appealing to me about this entire project or initiative is just the education piece and working with our residents to make sure they're prepared. And all the things that Sarah just said, and then the other things, you know, do you have the documents that you need? Here are the things that you need, so a whole lot of education. Do you know where the shelters are? I can't tell, it seems like every time we have a disaster or an emergency, there's a question about where are the shelters in this county? We should all know that. They
We need
should
to
be
get them on our
equipped.
website.
We should have an inventory at those shelters. And we can help with that in the health department, but I just don't feel like there's as much structure as there needs to be, or there could be. And so I feel like this project could help to solidify that.
Yeah. And so part of this like working group is to identify priorities, right? And make sure that we're all kind of rowing the same direction, making sure that everyone kind of knows what's happening, right? Because it's not a good feeling to be like, oh, this is all happening and nobody told you until the project was done and you read a final report. That's not the intention at all. It's really to open up communication and collaboration so that there is no duplication of effort. We can plug where we need to, which is kind of what I do every day in my job, right? Like I'm just looking, is there a gap somewhere that I could help? Can I just put in right here and alleviate a little bit? So I really feel like you all play a huge part, of course, you're the leadership of the county. So knowing what's happening without having to actually like physically do it, I think would be very helpful.
Yeah, I think I understand it a lot better now.
Oh.
You have more questions?
Yeah, well, I have so what is your request for the people of Fayette County in this commission? What's your request?
So what we need to move forward is, we need a commitment for the cash match, which is, like $13,000.
We got here 13,000.
930.
There
Yeah.
we go.
And that is the complete match. The budget has to be proportional, 20% match everywhere, which it is. We show income for salary, so that's why it looks a little bigger there because it is. And then we are requesting a letter of support.
A letter of support and a dedication of $13,900 or an in-kind donation of 13,000.
It has to be cash.
Cash. We have to
We can't
allocate.
do all in kind.
Okay. And a letter of support. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna move that we allocate the funds for this project.
Second.
Have a motion and second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you, ladies. Okay, according to my count, we still have 7 items.
Philip is still on, he's back on Zoom, so he can tell us about that Meadow Bridge Tower.
Okay.
Issue.
And
He just said unmute him. Let me see if he's under Tanya. Philip, can you hear me?
Should be.
Philip, you might be muted on your end. We unmuted you.
Right now.
Okay, try now. Oh, there you are. Okay. Was.
So actually, Charlie's up here with me now. We were discussing a few things about that tower, but going back to what you were looking at in the paperwork, you saw the numbers on that. Something you have to remember here is you repair versus replacement. When you replace or you change the structure type, you run into the chance of having to do geo and environmental studies, which is usually required by the tower manufacturer or whoever's constructing it for integrity. So, we went through this thing in the valley with the new site. We had to do all these studies on that is out of pocket expense. Luckily, we had grant money for that project, but it just needs to be known that those studies can cost up to $20,000 or more, depending on what they have to do, because you're changing the structure type. Now, as I talked about with Charlie, from a time standpoint, price standpoint, you may want to consider just doing a repair here because you'll be able to dodge all that. It makes things move a whole lot faster. But ultimately, it's up to everybody involved here to make a decision on that. Just know that could be an incurring cost.
Is there any way to vet the cost before we proceed with picking an option? Can't hear you.
You there?
Yeah, we're here.
You say Allison, I'm sorry.
Is there any way that you can get us some cost options before we proceed?
With you talking about geo studies?
Well, we're just kind of wondering how to quantify, because the letter we received from the Firefighters Association has the freestanding tower quote minus the insurance payment and a bottom line. And then the same thing for repair of the current tower. And then I agree. I think you're right. We're going to run up against some other costs, but I'm trying to figure out if there's a way that we can, approximate what those costs are going to be so we can make an informed decision.
Previous engineering firm that did that for us before. Maybe get you some numbers.
Hey, Philip, we can't hear you. You're breaking up.
He said he could get us some numbers. I caught that much. I didn't catch the first part, but
Okay.
but okay, well, that sounds good. So in this, on this matter, then I'm going to move that we postpone this to the next meeting agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye. And then that one's stricken. The others are executive session, right? Mr. Thomas never came.
No, Mr. Thomas never showed up.
So I move that we strike that then.
We have vouchers and invoices.
Second.
Yet.
So I had another fire chief submit a bunch of reimbursements for his own salary with only one signature, and that was his. That same fire department submitted invoices from all the way back to June of last year.
It can't be paid.
But the only thing is, I agree that that's the policy, but the policy has not been distributed. And, I'd like to go ahead and, I talked to Ruth. Ruth's gonna get the policy distributed, but I would like to go ahead and move that we pay them. With an admonition that, we can make to that fire chief. That we're not gonna do that in the future. The reason is the policy's not out, and I don't wanna presume that he knew the content.
How long has this person been a chief?
I don't know. I don't wanna call him out on the record.
No, I'm with you.
No, I just want to know how long.
So, but anyway, so Gia knows that we're not accepting any more single signature chief reimbursements. Has to be another signature on it. From the board or the other spending authority within the fire department, or municipalities have their own treasurers, but, and so with that said, let me just check my list to make sure there wasn't anything else on it.
Well, was there an explanation of why he hadn't submitted invoices from such a,
There
Last
was
time.
not, but I mean, he hadn't paid himself in all that time either. I mean, he submitted invoices all the way back. Trying to get him in before the end of the fiscal year. So, yeah, I think that's all I had for that, so.
you have a motion on the floor?
Yeah, I'm gonna move that we approve the
I would
vouchers.
like to pull that one out separate,
Which one?
this one out separate. We won't say the person's name, we'll just list it as separate because I'm not going to approve 12 months worth of bills when the person definitely knew that we only said 6 months. And it's been 6 months for, John, will you correct me, please? Help me out here.
Well, I don't know what the reimbursement policy says, if y'all change, so, have to get that out, so. I know in municipality, it has to be an invoice in that fiscal year, not so much 6 months, but that's your all's policy, you know.
All right, thank you. Then I will,
Oh, wait, there was one more.
I understand it.
And also there was that same department had submitted for fire association fees reimbursement, so that should be excluded. I mean, for my part, I don't wanna, I'd rather go ahead and pay because the policy hasn't been distributed and I don't want there to be. Yeah, I'd like us to start fresh with this fiscal year and hopefully things will go smoother. So I'm gonna go ahead and move that we approve vouchers and invoices minus the fire association fees. Included. And I'll tell Gia which ones they are.
I'll second the motion.
got a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, that's okay. Then we have some other items 2, 3, 8 through 11.
On item 2. I would like to make some changes to that contract and I didn't have the chance to do it to his scope of work. It's pretty limited and Ruth and I have talked about using him to do other things like the special projects we talked about, including the fire training center, shooting range, animal shelter, those sorts of things. So I think we could put this on the special meeting we're gonna have before the end of the month. And it could still meet his timeline. And I just want to talk with you and make sure we get everything included in here because it's not, the scope isn't broad enough to include those things.
Bring the environmental.
So I move that we postpone item 2 on exhibit A. Pending the date we set for the special meeting, put it on our special meeting. Guess we could do that.
Second. So we got a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
And on the resolution to establish nonprofit, why do we need to establish the nonprofit for the Meadow River Rail Trail project?
We aren't establishing it, they're establishing it, the Meadow River Trail, it's either the Alliance or the Meadow River Valley. And they're trying to become nonprofit and we just need a resolution. It's basically like a support letter, but in the form of resolution.
But why do we have to participate in that? at all?
Because it'll help with our expansion of the Meadow River Rail Trail.
So it's gonna advocate for county objectives,
Yeah.
kind of like the other organizations we have, like the one PJ set up in Fayette County and stuff like that.
Yes, and the biggest part of it is going to be in Greenbrier County, but it will expand into us and it will help Matt apply for grant funding for our part of the project. And he was going to try to be on the phone, but he's driving to Morgantown today.
By assisting that organization.
Yeah,
Okay,
they will help
So
us.
that needs to be part of this contract too, then.
Okay.
All right, so I move that we approve the establishing the nonprofit as a partner for Meadow
Second.
River Rail Trail.
We have a motion second on the floor. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then, is this the last thing? These last four?
8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah.
Okay, so I move that we go back into executive session to discuss Exhibit A, items A, 8, 9, 10, and 11, because we were unable to discuss those earlier.
Go into executive session at 10:49.
Close call.
Okay, welcome back to our meeting. We just come out of executive session where no decisions were made. Okay, Commissioner Taylor, over to you.
All right, so with regard to Exhibit A, item 8, we are gonna, should we just strike it? Because we don't have an exact date that we're gonna postpone it to. So we're gonna strike items 8 and 9 from Exhibit A and reschedule those, once we have, some drafts that we can work from. And, then on items 10, 11, or on item 10, we're gonna also strike that until we, work on this amendment. And item 11, I'm gonna move that we hold that decision, continue to hold that decision in abeyance. And have our council reach out to council for the parties in that issue and set a hearing for the months either in August or September on one of our regular meeting dates, so we could hear from the parties in that matter. So that was a motion there.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I believe that has wrapped up, except for,
You postponed that. I did, yeah. Anything else? I don't see anything else.
and neither do I.
Motion adjourned?
Second.
Okay,